Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics. I am here in New York City. Unfortunately, I landed from North Carolina a little too late. There was a pretty big march for Philando Castile. Obviously, his murderer was acquitted yesterday, and a couple thousand, I believe, people marched in New York City. We are right across from the Donald's house, the ivory tower that his insanity was born. But I still have a few protesters here, Black Lives Matter protesters. There were white folk, black folk, old folk, young folk marching against this injustice. Another officer gets off scot-free for murdering a black person. Tell me about the march and tell me about what your thoughts are after this latest injustice.
Well, I think I can speak for everyone here to say that the march was a huge success. A lot of times when we talk about Black Lives Matter, it's only included with black people. But for us, we are against exploitation of any kind. And so you have to talk about brown people, and you even have to talk about white people. But even worse is the silence that happens, not only from the media, but from other people who are supposed to be our allies. So it leads to a cycle of black people always being the first to being targeted, but the last to be ever talked about when it's time for resistance. So this march was to send a message that we're not going to stand for the status quo anymore. We're not resisting to go back to the status quo, but also to fight for black liberation so that this never happens again.
You know, after all these things happen, it's almost like that same record spinning over and over. You see the media doesn't cover it. They cover it maybe like initially when a black man gets murdered, then they move back to whatever Trump tweeted, and then they cover it when there's an acquittal, but there's nothing else. How do you keep Philando Castile, all the others, keep this in the news and actually get them to pay attention? Because we were talking yesterday, we're on the road a lot together, me and Ty. I mean, he doesn't feel safe just walking around, and I never have to deal with that because, you know, white privilege, whatever that is. I like this.
Thank you. So are you just like...
How do you keep this in the news so that it's not just when somebody gets acquitted or somebody gets murdered? How do we keep the movement keep going?
Of course, we raise awareness through marches, but also you have to be proactive after the marches, like speaking with politicians, just anybody in the government. So we just have to keep resisting, you know, never back down, you know, because that's what they want us to do. And to any black people that see this right here, what I want to say to you guys, and just anybody in general, if you are neutral during the times of oppression, you automatically choose the side of the oppressor. You do. Especially for my black people, you cannot be neutral. There's no such thing as being neutral for us, because being neutral, that doesn't save us. You know, our lives are still in grave danger every single day. So please wake up, keep fighting. Black Lives Matter.
I just want to add something to that. I'm Hawk Newsom. I'm the president of Black Lives Matter of Greater New York. We organized this march along with a few other organizations, Democratic Socialists of America, the Answer Coalition, New York City shut it down. The serious activists came together on this one and made this a success. To go back to what you were saying, the prosecution in Philando Castile's case didn't get key evidence introduced, which was the officer's body cam video. That was so asinine when you think about it. Like, how could you not get that introduced? But when it comes to cases where black people die at the hands of law enforcement, they always make these mistakes. The prosecution always drops the ball. The cop is either not indicted or he is acquitted. How do we change that? Perfect example. You ever heard of a woman named Deborah Danner?
Yes.
70-year-old woman, schizophrenic, shot in her home by a police officer. You know why that officer was indicted? Because Black Lives Matter New York, Black Lives Matter Greater New York, stood in front of the district attorney's office every day from 8 to 10 a.m. and demanded that she convene a grand jury. Every day we explained to them, here's what the officer did. He broke 2 rules in the patrolman's guidebook. He should have used his taser, and he should have left her in a secluded area. So we were telling the public in front of her office, these are elected officials. And what I'm telling you is, any politician here in New York, we're trying to get a hold of New York, that runs amok of Black Lives Matter Greater New York, we will be on your doorstep, letting your constituents know what you did and what you did not do. That's the key. That is the key. We must keep the pressure on. They care more about their seats than they do about people. We figured that out, so we'll put their seats in jeopardy. We like to say, you sell us out, we'll vote you out.
And you know, something I think, you know, they always say on the media, it's time for, we got to have a conversation. Got to have a conversation about race in America.
Yeah.
I think the time for a conversation's over.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is, at some point, you got to look at psychological testing for police officers, because there are ways to check aggression. There are ways to check racial predisposition, because this man, you could see that he was irrationally scared. And you see this in every case. They say, I was in fear for my life. Well, he wouldn't be in fear if it were me. I mean, let's be real. So what do you guys think of, in addition to holding the politicians accountable,
What I'm saying,
the psychological and the training of police officers?
see, you're asking a common sense type question. My common sense or not so common sense answer to you is, they want cops to brutalize poor black and brown people. They want cops to intimidate gay folks. The cops are the gatekeepers to this racist capitalist society. They want them to do that. The fixes we always talk about, but we have to really look deeper than that, right? And say, this is what they want cops to do. Think about it. Cops work with prosecutors every day. They develop a working relationship. Why would one friend want to prosecute another friend? When a cop turns in another cop, he's called a rat and he's ostracized within the department. So what they're doing really, the cops are making us move again. So what they're doing is, the cops are doing exactly what they want them to do. What were cops originally? The slave patrol, the overseers. This has been their job since day one. Why do you think cops hate Black Lives Matter so much? How many Black Lives Matter activists have killed cops? 0. But they say we're thugs. We put their lives in danger. They hate us because we threaten their very existence. We are true seekers of justice, not the police department.
And another thing that I find really, really infuriating is the media acts like there's even a question of whether, you know, the police officer, flew off the handle or something like that. I mean, it's not just Fox News. CNN, I mean, they try to be neutral and like, oh, let the justice system play out. Well, Bill Cosby just got off today. This guy got off for Philando Castile. George Zimmerman. I mean, how many examples do you need before you say, there's a pattern here?
Yeah.
There's a pattern. And they bring on former white cops onto their air to recite bullshit, if you ask me. CNN has this guy who's a blatant racist and continues to foment this stuff. So what point is the media, I mean, I'm sure there wasn't much national media at this march and other marches, unless there's a chance of bloodshed. They'll come to Ferguson, they'll come to Baltimore, not like daily stuff like this. At what point do you have to, not just the media, not just the politicians, but the media also?
I want Kenneth to take a stab at this. I just want to say one thing. All the way at the top of the food chain, it's capitalism. But for the rednecks, the white supremacists, it's racism, right? Racism fuels this capitalist society, right? This capitalist structure. So what's the media in it for? Ratings, right?
And profit.
And profit. So their profit.
That's how this man is in the White House.
Exactly. Fuck Donald Trump, just for the record, even though it didn't come into
You hear that?
Just for the record, fuck Donald Trump. But yeah, Kenneth, take a stab at it.
What we need is a real people-led movement. I'm not going to mince words. When we all came together during the presidential election, we all liked Bernie Sanders. And why did we like Bernie Sanders? I didn't like him because he was a Democrat, because he ran on the Democratic Party. I didn't care if he was part of the Green Party. I didn't care if he came from overseas and ran. I liked him because of the issues. And that's what we need to get back to. We need to have a racial literacy on issues, because black people are the first to be attacked, but then they're going to start going for poor working class whites as well. People like Donald Trump don't care about any of us. We are anti-exploitation. That means with working class whites, we will work with you to fight capitalism, because that is part of black liberation, right? Racism is a huge problem in America, and we need to address that through racial literacy, to having our history taught in classes, to having our own media cycles, to having media that actually portrays our issues in the right way. But first, we need to get ours as well. We need economic justice. But we need to do that because black people are the bottom of every social, political, and economic ladder in this country. You uplift us, you uplift the rest of those people. I remember when I was out in Ohio, meeting with people who lost their jobs because of Democratic policies. I say we getting the same thing. Our jobs are getting shipped overseas as well. They don't care about any of us. So I don't care if you Democrat, Republican, I don't care if you independent. If you right on black politics, I'm gonna work with you because we're in this together. Our struggle cannot be separated. The capitalistic struggle cannot be separated from the struggle of everyday working people. It can only be struggle because we are black, and black people go through a different struggle. But we need to get that straight, and we need some solidarity.
Let it be said that Black Lives Matter is a simple reminder at the least of simply that black lives do matter. And throughout history, time has proven on multiple occasions, we were the ones that were first out to fight. We were the ones that we believed better than anybody could. We practiced harder than anybody could. We sacrificed more than anybody could. So why is it that now in a movement and today that we have on a day like today, Juneteenth, we started in Harlem. Lenox, Uptown is not 6th Avenue, it's not Avenue of Americas. You know what it's called? It's called Malcolm X Boulevard. You know why? I live there. And let me tell you about Malcolm X Boulevard. Brother Malcolm walked up and down those streets for what? The Ballad of the Bullet, to show us that it's about something more than what these good preachers and stuff want to be dancing and shuckling and jiving, but behind closed doors, taking this money from the people. This is a people's fight, okay? This is about the people who are struggling here. It doesn't matter if you white, if you black, if you brown. If you over here, you struggling, you tired of these economic conglomerates just taking everything from you, you need to be out here in these streets and you need to have your voice be heard. Because I'll tell you right now, I didn't start off as one of these people here, a part of Black Lives Matter of the greater New York, and I respect them. But guess where I'm from? 15th and Lenox. And guess what I see on every day? Police brutality, the mother of my child shot, and then the police that are supposed to protect and serve our community treat her like she's the victim, okay? And then for me, in my community, like she's the criminal, not the victim. You get what I'm trying to say? Thank you, brother. And for them to come and in my community to know that I can't trust them enough to go in front of Pix 11 News and say, hey, I'm the father of that child, or this, and the third, because guess what? The criminals are still out there. But Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm trying to say? All of the black lives. Not just the ones that have college degrees, not just the ones that are even out here organizing right now. The ones that don't even know that they need to organize, okay? They matter too, all right?
And I think there's a really irrational fear that Trump, the media, have perpetrated about foreign terrorism and Arabs and this is up. When there's actual terrorism going on every day, 50 blocks up. And all other parts.
And what you're talking about, you're bringing up the fight against terrorism, right? Black people also need to understand that our fight for civil rights can't be just here in America. It has to be international as well. Don't let nobody tell you that black people have it better overseas, because anti-blackness is the currency that runs this world. We need to ally with our Palestinian brothers and sisters against apartheid. We need to ally with those in Africa. Like, this movement is about black liberation, but black liberation is for all. This isn't about black against white, not about black against brown. This is about right versus wrong. This is about what side of history will you be on.
I understand media very well, okay? So let's understand what's happened with the media institutions that Trump used to his betterment to get there, because advertising dollars pay. You guys, I'm not gonna mention it.
Not TYT, trust me.
You can ask all of the majors about it, all right? They don't want you to know that. So financial literacy is so important, and the communities of color, especially ones that have been disenfranchised, like what's happening in the current everyday black man like me, they don't want me on the TV. They don't want my story to be told. They want to give it to somebody that looks a couple of shades lighter than me to tell the exact same story. Why? Because he can make it into more demographics than I can because of the way how he looks. That in itself is institutionalized racism. On the marketing dollars, going back to answer your question, how could that possibly happen when you had conglomerates before and it wasn't happening? You had major corporations that had all the resources to do all these large productions for like Jurassic Parks and Star Wars and other stuff, right? And now you have these independents like you guys coming out here. You don't have some crazy film equipment. You're just doing it for the passion, right? And you're out here. Although you have the distribution, because that's different, you understand that game. it's not the resources to make sure that the change can actually happen in the way it needs to.
We don't do it for money, we do it for progress. That's
Exactly.
why.
So like even with the music industry, it's being reflected in its current state of artists it has put out, or it hasn't for that matter. Now with the new state of artists that it's getting behind, they're trying a shot at it again, but they want an artist that's already fully formed and developed. Okay? They're not taking time out to build it up because they're gonna use the clout of what the internet has shown the people want, which a lot of times shows to be ignorance. I hate to say that, and they sell through that. So no real change ever happens because it's based off of, like how this brother was saying, a capitalist mode.
I wish it was capitalist, it's oligarch.
It's more than
Let's be real and let's not kid ourselves, honestly. It's nothing new under the sun with what's going on right now. In a way, to be honest with you, and I speak, this is coming from me, I'm not representing my organization with this, I honestly welcome the fact that Donald Trump is the president because it's bringing America's ugly head to the forefront. People are being forced to have to deal with how racist this country really is. And unfortunately, what people like to do before, especially underneath the Obama administration, they wanted to sweep a lot of things underneath the rug. Racism and police brutality was still very present underneath that president. Not only that, we lost a lot of black lives underneath this president, the black president, and he didn't say anything either. So I'm not going to act like it's just this president. We like to say, okay, Trump this, Trump that, but only thing Trump did was allow these racists to have more of a voice and poke their chest out a little bit more. We just had, from what I'm hearing, we had two incidences in Mississippi where we lost black lives. One man was decapitated, I'm hearing. And a lot of people in New York don't even know about that. We could have been raising awareness about that also. So this is the problem. It's like, we talk about the media doesn't want to bring the coverage, but it's like how, like he said, if this is the institutional, systematically controlled, capitalistic, fascist, it's controlled from the higher up, the 1%.
So speaking about what we said, terrorism abroad and terrorism home, are we all aware, this is Young Turks, about the Double V campaign? This isn't the first time. So when you had the Double V campaign, what was that? Victory abroad and victory at home. It was going with Vietnam. So essentially, it's like, why is it that you had a comparison by Dipset with Harlem Nights, right, having the same life expectancy as somebody in Bangladesh? Why is that? You think maybe we're killing each other at that rate, but why if we were? Because of lack of job opportunities, lack of education, lack of affordable housing. So we're stuck in these situations, and then we got a predator picking us off as well, sending us away till God knows when because of unjust laws where you have the crack and the cocaine comparison. Go do your homework. If you don't know about how this government has systematically set up ways for us to take the black male out of the household through the Ronald Reagan welfare queen, or go educate yourself, and then you will understand why we're out here fighting and why we're so frustrated. When somebody says, oh, I'm against busing, right? What are they really saying? If kids can't afford to go to the better school and they need to be bussed in to get that quality education, and you're saying, I'm against paying taxes for busing, what are you saying then? You're against helping out the lower class society get the resources in which they need to obtain the same resources you had, or the same shot, because when the veterans came back from the war, they didn't get the same deals for houses that the white veterans did. That's just a fact. So now it's time for us to get ours because we understand that this is the tide that rises all ships, okay? So by bringing black lives, by understanding Black Lives Matter, because they always have since the beginning of time, if you want to go back to ancient Egypt, this is where this knowledge came from. Unveiling that, tapping back into that. We'll never be able to reach where we need to reach as humanity if we don't come together. So it's not about black and white. It's about right and wrong. It's about educating our young. It's about loving our families, about being able to provide. Every man wants to be able to do that. So we don't deserve to be able to do that because we're black.